Yeah, Gurmagod Laskin Corla, and I welcome the opportunity to speak on the EPA Emergency Electricity Generation Bill. This temporary emergency electricity generation will provide capacity to mitigate the security of supply risk for the winter period at the end of this year and into 2024. So it's crucially important that government planning is in place to ensure a reliable and a resilient energy supply in times of crisis or disruption. And I think this bill will ensure essential services continue to operate, reducing economic impacts, supporting disaster response efforts, improving our energy security, and also promoting investment in resilient infrastructure and help build a more sustainable energy system for the future. And I think that's in essence what is important here today when we speak on this bill. Minister, while energy companies continue to make enormous profits in the electricity sector, we need to continue to voice our concerns associated with these profits, particularly in terms of affordability for householders and businesses. It's important for government to continue to monitor and regulate the electricity sector to ensure energy companies are acting in the best interests of their consumers and the environment. We were told last year when Irish customers faced the highest or higher electricity prices than the EU average, that the most important factor affecting electricity prices in Ireland is the continuing upward trend in international gas prices, which is affecting electricity prices all across Europe and the world. And of this, government's long-term solution to this issue was the deepening of our interconnection with the EU energy market via the increased interconnection. Ireland sources roughly 1/4 of its gas from the Corrib gas field and 3/4 via the interconnector from the UK, which has diverse sources of supply. And as the production in the Corrib gas field declines, what do we do then, Minister? And I think that's an important question that we still haven't answered. Have we identified alternative natural gas supplies? Otherwise, Ireland will end up depending on imports via the UK and Scotland or from the European network, which is already under pressure. And I think relying on the interconnector with the UK seems like the easiest option, but it exposes Ireland to EU gas supply and demand issues into winter months, as we've seen previously. We need to build or ensure that we have an equivalent or another Corrib gas field to supply the building of the new gas-fired electricity plants, which governments say is a national priority. Off the coast of Mayo, as you're aware, Minister, we have the country's only gas reserve in nearby areas, which is licensed for exploration. You know, if these fields do prove viable, they could tie into the existing Corrib infrastructure. We have a €3 billion asset in North Mayo. I think them jobs would be secured into the long term. And it also could be brought ashore with minimal disruption. So we need government to continue to realise the full potential of our indigenous renewable energy resources, but we also need to build the state's energy security, which is essential to address the structural issues that are currently in place. I also want to touch on the lag between the wholesale price decreasing and the retail prices for businesses and homeowners. The process is simply taking way too long, Minister, and reductions are not being passed off quick enough. There are numerous companies who are quick to impose higher prices but take their time in bringing the prices down, and that's something that government needs to really take on board in terms of implementing a policy response in this area. You know, we've seen in recent days Pinergy and Electric Ireland, two companies who announced decisions to implement price reductions, and I think that was important, but it's a step in the right direction, nowhere near enough to solve the issues of the outrageously high energy prices. And we just need to be very conscious in relation to this, and we need action to help consumers. I think, you know, if you look at some energy companies, they're not inclined to pass on reductions quick enough. So government must ensure that reductions in prices are passed on in a swift manner. We can no longer politely request companies to reduce their prices, but we must be more strict and responsible in how they manage it. And it's important that the national, energy security framework continues to deliver for government and ensure that the department develops and implements energy policies that are tailored to their specific circumstances and that they reflect the priorities and values of our citizens. Very much.